So I'm going to read through the top 5 lists as we have them. I'll go through our sleepers as well, and then I'll pick out a few for us to talk about because it's unfair to do short shrift to the linebackers, but Debo put them last on the rundown, so that's just the way it is. All right, so here's some of our sleepers. Jeremy Banks, linebacker out of Tennessee. That's Lijay's guy. Lijay, I didn't love him, I'll be honest with you, but that's okay. Rick's guy, Avin Pace, linebacker out of Cincinnati. And my guy, who's going to be the best of the group, Cam Jones, linebacker out of Indiana. That dude is crazy. Crazy, crazy, Rick. Undersized.
Yeah, undersized. I wish you learned how to take it on a block. It gets smashed.
You know what? I almost went Pace too, Rick, but I figured somebody else would.
Yeah. That was too obvious. All right, here are our top 5 guys. And Lijay does not have this player ranked. Rick has him 3rd. I have him 5th. Trenton Simpson out of Clemson. Number 4. Deion Henley out of Washington State. Lijay had him 5. Rick had him 4. I had him 3. Nick Herbig out of Wisconsin. Rick had him 5. Lijay had him 4. I had him 2. Man, oh man, this guy is making moves. Jack Campbell out of Iowa, linebacker. Lijay had him number 1. Rick had him number 2. I had him number 4. And finally, Drew Sanders, transfer from Alabama, linebacker out of Arkansas. Lijay had him 2. Both Rick and I had him number 1. Lijay, let's start with Jack Campbell because he is getting a lot of buzz. He was on Pete Prisco's Better Than team. I watched him in the fall. I didn't love him, but I keep hearing about him, and I keep hearing top 40 talk. So tell me on Jack Campbell before I have to go back and watch some more on him.
Well, I was going to say, first of all, what didn't you love about him? It's Captain Jack, man.
Captain Jack. And he tested not just the 40 time, but his short area and 3 cone, short shuttle and 3 cone were like Jackson Smith and Jigba level impressive.
Yeah, so and that's the thing, right? Because the NFL has changed. He kind of looks like an old school linebacker. He's like 6'5", 250. But you talked about it, right? He can move. Like, I know he ran, I think, 4.65, but on tape, his instincts and the way he's able to run, he runs faster than that. Like, there's so many times you see him chasing the back out of the backfield and cover him. The quarterback has nowhere to go. One-hand interception versus Ohio State was second to none. I think he has the best instincts at linebacker out of everybody in this draft class. I mean, he just is always in the right place. And because of his size, shock and shed ability is better than anybody else in this draft class too. So to me, I was surprised that Pete Prisco had him on that better than list, because I honestly think you saw where I had him as the number 1 linebacker in this draft class. I think he's going to be a hell of a player in the NFL.
So I watched him in October. I watched the Michigan game, and here's what I said. Obviously incredibly smart. When I watched him play, sometimes he tried to run around blocks. He sometimes struggled to disengage from blocks, even from tight ends. He can play short zone and pass coverage, but didn't have man-to-man skills. I thought that translated to the next level. Had no chance in the C gap versus Blake Corum. He got hit with the old rope-a-dope, but I mean, in Blake Corum's defense, he's pretty freaking good.
About your sleeper. We're talking about Jack Campbell. Your sleeper. You're describing your sleeper.
I'm just telling. Oh, that's fine.
The disrespect is real.
This is a typical
sarcasm. It's not disrespect.
Lijay, this is a typical Wednesday.
Oh my goodness.
Let's see, Rick. You had him second. You must have moved him up though, Rick, because you haven't always had him.
Oh, I liked him in the fall. We talked about him in the fall when I was homeless and living in a.
He said when I was homeless.
You had nothing else to do. Okay. All right. So like I said, I have to watch more on him because I didn't love him in the fall. I haven't watched him since, but everyone else seems to be behind him. So
I'll watch that Ohio State film, right?
I'll watch the Ohio State film. All right, let's talk about one more guy. And Rick and I have talked about Trenton Simpson. And Lijay, I'll get your thoughts on him because you had him unranked. And I'll just tell you what a scout told me. Athleticism through the roof, dad in the military, he's supposed to be a great teammate, all those things. But it was explained to me, and this is what I saw, and I thought this explanation made more sense than me beating around the bush. He plays football like he's watching the game through a straw. Like he struggles to see everything that's going on around him. Like the football awareness isn't where it needs to be. In addition to that, he spends a lot of time on the ground. He doesn't do a lot in coverage for me. He doesn't move well as well laterally as I would like. He'll run down plays, but if you need him to change direction, short areas in the middle of the field, I don't know if he's your guy. And I say that as someone talking about him as a top 32 pick.
Well, yeah, I didn't have him. You saw me. I didn't have him as a top 5 guy. I mean, I think he's actually pretty good in coverage. My thing is, Rick, we're talking about your sleeper guy. The same thing could be said for Trenton Simpson as far as taking on blocks. Now, he is a little undersized, but he gets eaten up by blockers on tape when I saw it. So that's one of my concerns is as far as him in the run game. But the athletic ability is there, right, to cover in space. Now, you said you didn't like his change of direction. I have to go back and look at that because I thought he covered pretty well. But as far as
change direction, That's not an issue.
Yeah,
it is. It is an issue. Don't listen to him. It's an issue.
Yeah, I thought he could change direction pretty well. To me, his biggest issue is he's undersized. He gets ate up by blockers. Like you don't see any shock and disengage when a lineman gets to the second level with him. It's
yeah. So he ran to the 4.4s. Go ahead, Rick.
Yeah, just one thing is what you described, Ryan, earlier by one of your sources. That I think the biggest thing is his see to do and how quickly his instincts are, because you have to have I won't call it peripheral vision, but you have to have some feel for if the guy's coming down and whack you on an angle block or a guard's coming out.
Right.
You just got to have a sense and awareness of some things, and maybe it's awareness at times that doesn't show up. But this dude can drop his weight and he can run. And I've seen him get off some blocks at the point. Now, it was straight at him, but the dude dropped his weight, and there's no one going to beat him to the sideline when he runs.
Yeah, no, I agree with all that. But I think if
he does a pretty good job coming up. I saw him get upfield on one play, and it was a draw, and he redirected and closed and stripped the runner of the ball. I mean, he does do some things that jump off tape and catches your attention. It's just my biggest issue with him is not the athleticism. The other thing is half these guys that you watch at linebacker, none of them know how to use their hands or play with heavy hands and take on blocks. They're all runaround guys now, except for my little sawed-off dude from Cincinnati. That guy's like a baller.
I think Jack Campbell takes on blocks well.
Yeah, he may be bet, but even Drew Sanders, who I like,
he definitely running around blocks.
Right, but they run around blocks. But that's what they do in college. It's a space game, and I think that sometimes you can teach guys that Eric Kendricks was a runaround guy in college, but he came up and very instinctive. I think he's more instinctive than Trenton Simpson, but he learned how to take on blocks. Even Anthony Barr, who I compared some of these big, tall dudes, because I think when you get into Jack Campbell's of the world or Drew Sanders of the world, those guys, when you put them in the A gaps and you blitz them through the A gaps, or you can get them isolated one-on-one with a running back, that's a mismatch.
Yeah.
And we try to do that all the time with Anthony Barr, is because of that size and that athleticism, that if you can guess what the protection is going to be, if it's sliding to the right or to the left, and you can bring them away from where the protection is coming, and they get isolated one-on-one with the running back, usually that's a pretty good mismatch for the defense.
Rick, let me ask you this. So you talk about you would like to see better awareness from Trenton Simpson. Isn't that off-ball position one of the you are most likely to be exposed?
That's something that teams are going to have to talk about in the draft room, because like I said, you can teach them maybe to be a little bit more heavy-handed taking on blocks or to stay square. The one thing that is not coachable, in my opinion, is instincts or awareness. Either you have that or you don't. So that is a non-coachable factor. And I don't want to compare him to the guy that came out of Clemson that's out at Arizona right now.
Isaiah Simmons.
Yeah, that was technically almost a bust right now, because he hasn't really done a lot for Arizona for where he was drafted, but phenomenal athlete. So from a linebacker standpoint, I'd almost rather take, and I'm being biased here, but my younger brother that looks older than me, Chris, he couldn't break maybe a 5 flat in a 40, but there was no dude except one running back, he said, ever beat him to the sideline. And he said it was the fastest running back he ever played against. It was Bo Jackson on a Monday night when I watched him go 90 down the
Never heard of him.
Metrodome. But he said, now that guy can run. I could have seen it, but linebackers with instincts that may be 4.7-ish, but they get off the spot and they just have a natural feel for the position. Not a lot of guys are going to beat them at the line of scrimmage, and they play faster because they're so instinctive.
Yes.
And they're off the spot a lot quicker than a guy that may be more athletic and run a 4.3. But if he's standing there like looking like a deer in a headlight, sometimes that's an issue.
Well, right.
As a great scout once told me, sometimes this guy looks like he was born on Wednesday and looking both ways for the weekend.
Oh my goodness.
Well, so what I was trying to say is it fair to say that the off-ball position is probably the biggest position where you can be exposed in a hurry if you take a false step? more so than playing defensive line. Even at safety, you have a chance to recover. But if you're coming downhill and you take a step backwards when you're not supposed to because you didn't read your keys, you're going to be a half second late.
Yep.
So that's my concern with Trenton Simpson. Now, I'll go back and double check the other things that you guys are calling me out on. I'm sure I'm right, you're wrong, but that's whatever. I don't care. But all right, so that's where I'm at on him. Did you want to say anything else about Trenton, Lige?
Nah, I'm good. I think we said everything.
All right, then that's a wrap, guys. We did it. We just got it just over an hour there, Debo. Not too bad. So that is a wrap on episode 36. Remember,
it's story time.
Oh yeah, you got a story before we go, Debo. We got
that's a wrap on episode 36.
We got story time.
For your consolation pine, Lige, you're going to get a shirt from Debo.
Before I go very quickly, I know we got to go. Rick, what was your comp for Deion Henley?
Who did I comp for Deion Henley? Oh, the kid that came out of Ohio State that New Orleans drafted. Warner.
Peter Warner. Yeah.
Peter Warner. Yeah. I had Drake Greenlaw.
Yeah, I could see that.